All right, welcome back. We're going to continue our review with looking at how to work with integers. Now, we came across one integer yesterday, and I said we would come back to that idea today. An integer, all that is a positive or a negative whole number. So I put a number line up here for you to use. Some of you like to use that so you can visualize where these numbers are, and we can use that as we go through here. So if we're going to look at adding and subtracting first. If we start with this first question, -6 plus 2. Okay, so how do we work with these? There's a few different ways. You might just know how to do it in your head. That's great. In the end, a calculator is always a sure bet. But with a number line, what we want to do is start at that first number, -6. So if we look at that here, we notice it's on the left-hand side of the 0. Now, if we want to add 2, if we're going to add a number, we're going to move towards the right-hand side on the number line. So if we start at -6, and add 2 or move to the right 2, 1, 2, we end up at -4. So if we take -6 and add 2, we get -4. For the next one, we have -2 subtract 8. Well, if we added and went to the right, if we subtract, we're going to go to the left on our number line. So again, we're going to start that first number, -2, and when we subtract, we're going to move left. So starting at -2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, gets us over to -10. We can start at -3 and we can add 9, or we move to the right 9. So here's -3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, gets us up to a +6. So you notice that we crossed over the 0 line, and now we're into the positive numbers. We don't have to write the plus sign in front. We could, but if there's no sign in front, it's assumed to be a positive number. But we do need to make sure that we put the negative in front of negative numbers to show that it is negative. 10 minus 15. Again, we're going to start at 10, and the minus tells us we're going to move left 15 on our number line. And if you count that out, we would end up at -5. Again, you might want to pause the video and try some of these next ones on your own. And when you're ready, you can restart whenever you feel like it. We can work with larger numbers as well. -18 isn't on our number line, but we could always extend it. We could add in the numbers that we want. But if we start at -18 and then we added 30, we would come 30 to the right, and we would end up at a +12. So -18 would be off to the left here somewhere. Move 30 to the right, and we'd end up at 12. If we visualize the number line, we would start at -32, way off to the left. And then we'd have to go 12 more to the left because we're subtracting. So if we have -32 and we go 12 more to the left, we'd end up at -44. -18 plus 12, we'd start over on the left at -18, and if we add 12, we would end up at -6. And we can use the same idea with larger strings of numbers. All we would have to do is whenever we see a subtract, make sure we move left, and then when we see a plus, we're going to move right. So if I start at 1, the first thing I want to do is subtract 4, or go left 1, 2, 3, 4. After that, -4 is a +6, so we're going to move back to the right, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gets us up to 3. If I'm at 3 and then I add 5, that gets me up to 8. 8 plus another 7 would get me to 15. And then I move back 9 because I'm subtracting 9. 15 minus 9 would be 6. So that's how we would work with the number line. But you may have a different strategy that works for you as well, and that's fine. Sometimes we end up with double signs. Okay, now double signs, what we want to do is try and get rid of those before we start combining numbers so that we don't have to think as hard. Okay? If we have two negative signs, a minus and a minus actually means we're going to add. If we subtract a negative, it really means we're going to add. If we have a subtract and a plus, the overall result is going to be a minus, or subtract. If we have a plus and a subtract, we're going to subtract. And if we have two pluses that's going to tell us to add. So as we look at the next few examples, we'll notice that we've got lots of signs, lots of pluses and minuses separating all of our numbers. So what we want to do is simplify the signs first. So whenever we see two signs side by side like we have here, a minus and a minus tells us that we're going to add. So this is going to change this to minus 3 plus 5. Okay, and that makes it look a lot easier to deal with than having all of these minus signs here. So again, we could go back to our number line, start at minus 3, move right 5, and we would end up with 2. If we have a minus and a plus together, a minus and a plus gives us a subtract. So we have minus 5 or negative 5 minus 11. You notice that when we only have a single sign in front of the first number, it stays the same. Minus 5 subtract 11 more. We'd move left on our number line to get us to minus 16. Now in this case, you'll notice that we have two signs in front of the first number. So here we can combine these together. Two minuses gives us a plus 4. And again, if it's plus 4, we don't have to write that plus. It's just assumed to be positive. And then the plus minus 8, plus and minus combine to give us a minus 8. So again, starting at 4, moving left 8 would get us to negative 4 on our number line. Again, feel free to try the next couple on your own before checking out the rest of the video. Same idea with longer strings of numbers. Combine all your signs together first, and then combine the numbers once you have it simplified down. If I look at the signs here, I've got a minus and a plus, which gives me a minus 3. A minus and a minus gives me a plus 1. And then a plus and a minus gives me minus 4. And then it's just like this example up here where we could jump left and right as our pluses and minuses told us to. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. Minus 4 is negative 4. And likewise on the last one, we can combine some of our signs together. We would end up with 7 plus 9, minus 5, plus 4, minus 2. And 7 plus 9 is 16, minus 5 is 11, plus 4 is 15, minus 2 is 13. So we always want to combine double signs together whenever possible to make this a little bit easier for us to look at. If we move on to the other two operations, multiplying and dividing, very similar to what we had with double signs here. Okay? When we're multiplying and dividing, if we have the same signs on the two numbers that we're multiplying or dividing, you notice back here when we had the same signs, two negatives or two positives, we ended up with a positive. Okay? It's the same thing for multiplying and dividing. If we have same signs, we're going to have a positive answer. Opposite signs are going to give us a negative answer. So if we look at the first example here, we notice that we have two negative numbers that we're working with. Two negative numbers means we have the same signs. That means our answer is going to be positive. So I know I'm going to have a positive answer. We don't really have to write that positive sign down. And then if we just look at the numbers, 8 times 5, we've already taken care of the sign. All we have to think about is the numbers now. 8 times 5 would be 40. So negative 8 times negative 5 would have a solution of positive 40. 7 times negative 9, you notice we have one positive number, one negative number, so opposite signs are going to give us a negative answer. Once I figure out the sign, all I have to do is figure out what value it is. 7 times 9, a little tricky one sometimes, is 63. And we came across a question like this yesterday with the BEDMAS work. When we have no sign in between the brackets here, that's an invisible multiplying sign. Again, we've got opposite signs giving us a negative number, and 12 times 6 would be 72. And for the last one here, 10, again in the middle here we've got a multiplication. 10 times 50 would be 500. And because they're both positive values, we're going to have a positive answer. Dividing integers works exactly the same way. We're going to look at the signs and then deal with the value of the number. So here I've got negative 20, positive 10. Opposite signs again tells me my answer is going to be a negative answer. And then 20 divided by 10 is 2. (64) divided by negative 8, again, opposite signs gives us a negative answer. 64 divided by 8 is 8, so our final answer is negative 8. We can do the same principles with bigger numbers. Sometimes we'll want a calculator to help us out, and that's fine, but we won't always have a calculator. But we will notice that negative and negative, two of the same signs, is going to give us a positive answer. And if you work this out in your calculator, or if you're able to puzzle through it in your brain, we can come up with an answer of 31. Last one, negative divided by a positive, opposite signs gives us negative answer. 16 divided by 4 would be negative 4. So if you think you're ready, move on to the worksheet where you can practice working with integers, or go back and review whatever part of the video that you need to look at again.